Hi and welcome my Morbid friends. Today we're gonna talk about a real-life murder mystery that was so fascinating that it actually inspired a novel by our one and only true goth king, Edgar Allan Poe. So let's go back to the 1800s New York. A very pretty girl by all accounts. Our main characters in this story, Mary Rogers. She was born in 1820 in Connecticut, and when she was 14, her father passed away, leaving only her and her mother, trying to find some kind of income, as people would want to do, even today, but even more back then, drove them to move to New York, where they opened up a boarding house. Mary was, by all accounts, very charismatic and pretty, so she very quickly became noticed. One of the people who noticed her was a John Anderson who had a tobacco shop, and he had a brilliant idea. He was gonna give Mary Rogers a job. She was gonna be selling these tobaccos, and hopefully customers, male customers, would be drawn into his shop like moths to a very pretty flame. And he was right. She very quickly became the talk of the town. She was even mentioned in newspapers, and the important people went there just to gawk and buy their tobacco. She was described in many ways. Beautiful, tall, jet black hair, heavenly smile and sparkling eyes, a model of modesty and decorum, delicate body and smooth complexion. In one newspaper, an admirer had even wrote an entire poem about her, where he described her star-like eyes and heavenly smile. But even with all this hullabaloo about her, she was never flirty or scandalous in any way, and I think that seemed like one of the reasons why the men were falling at her feet. She seemed so perfect by Victorian standards. So press ran hot when she suddenly disappeared in 1838, and with this disappearance her mother even found a letter which proclaimed a fixed idea to end her life. Funny thing with this one is that she actually showed up a few days later, just confused by it all, saying she was visiting her aunt. So newspapers ran with that too. She disappeared, she came back. Maybe it was all just a publicity stunt for the shop, like drumming up some more attention, and nothing was really ever amiss. She might have been hiding in a room for a few days. We don't know. We actually don't know. Either way, what we do know is that in the coming years she would find a boy, a Daniel Payne, and she got engaged to him. Some accounts say that her mother was not thrilled with it because he wasn't a very rich and cool guy in her eyes. She saw the beauty of her daughter and the fame she had gathered, and she wanted her to lift them up in society, not marry some lowly guy. She wanted her to find someone richer. So there was, by all accounts, some tension going on with Daniel Payne, and we will come back to him. That's why I mention him now. We will come back to him. Moving forward to 1841, Mary by this time was only 20 years old, and now she disappeared again. She had met Daniel, her fiancé, the night before and said that she was gonna visit her aunt again, and that he could come and pick her up and they would walk home together later in the evening. Thing was that a storm came through New York, and he decided that she must be smart and stay in and not go home, and he will go tomorrow to check up on her instead. And he stayed home. In a time where you can't really get a hold of anyone fast, okay, sounds unsuspicious. But she did not return. She continued being gone. Poof. Daniel went to the aunt, like, where is she? And the aunt said, I haven't seen her, she wasn't supposed to come here. Mystery, where is she? Where is Mary Rogers, the beautiful cigar girl that everyone's talking about? This is the second time she disappears without a trace. And sadly, she would not return. 3 days later, they sadly found her body floating in the Hudson River. Luckily, another previous suitor was there and could identify her by the hair on her arms, because she was unrecognizable and not from being in the water for 3 days, because you could still recognize someone after that. She had been assaulted. She was not looking good at all. They came to the conclusion that she had demised via denial of air supply. She had a bit of lace from her dress ripped off and tightly secured around her neck, which had given her a very harsh, unhappy line. From the examination of her body, she had been assaulted. There was lots of blunt force trauma. She was, taken there, and she had been taken against her will. To put it in a very nice way, if you can do that, her wrists had marks. She had been tied, and her dress was ripped. She had bruises from thumbprints all over her body, and it was not a very nice thing to see. She had not been bergante. They looked that up, so she was all cool there, I guess. They would also find some of her belongings scattered about in a forest close by. Not a very nice way to go. And then she had been thrown into the water, hopefully to be gone, but she came back. The first suspect here was, of course, her fiancé, but he had an alibi and was quickly written off. Sadly, though, he went and cancelled himself in the forest where they had found her things. And he left a note which read, "Here I am at the very spot. May God forgive me for my misspent life." Many people took that as a confession that he had went ahead and did the thing. Some say, though, that he had gone mad with grief and depression after it happened and therefore went and did what he did. We don't know. The thing is, this is still a mystery, a murder mystery. No one was ever caught or prosecuted in this case. So some theories, except for the fiancé one, gang violence. Witnesses came forward and said that they had seen Mary walking around with some big burly men and laughing and going into the woods to do God knows what. But all this went against her character. No one had ever seen her as a flirtatious woman who did deeds. By all accounts, she was very demure and careful, and not at all a girl who would go with a gang of burly men into a forest. I don't think people would do that even today if they don't have a demise wish. Another one was that a woman on her deathbed came forward a few years later saying that she had been there when Mary passed because a doctor had come into her home where she did illegal abortions, and that Mary had demised during the procedure and was left there by the doctor, and she in a hurry had disposed of her. But this again also went against everything. Like, she had been assaulted, she had been demised, taken from her heir, she had been this, that, and the other, and they had concluded that she had not had a baby in her stomach. So this makes no sense. And the dying woman's sons later also said that this was just something she made up on her deathbed, which sounds weird too. Why would you do that? Still, it did not make sense, and the police pushed that confession to the side, saying that it's nonsense. And yeah, still to this day, we don't know. Someone who was very touched by the story and who used to go there to buy tobacco was our dear Edgar Allan Poe, of course. Just a year after her tragic demise in 1842, he released a book called Mystery of Marie Roget, and it did not take place in the US of A, he moved it to France. And it said that it's one of the first murder mystery novels that's actually based on a true case. And that was today's murder mystery Patreon and YouTube member exclusive. For some reason I did not hit record when I did my outro, so here it is. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you all so much for the support, and yeah, hope you're doing amazing, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye!